Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, a sleepy summary. Welcome to this quiet space. Before we begin our descent into rest, let us acknowledge the nature of our journey. This summary is a gentle introduction to the narrative. In providing it, in no way am I trying to simplify or distort the work of the original author. It is merely a condensation curated for the stillness of this moment. It is my sincere hope that these words serve as a calming companion, and that they inspire you to seek out the original written work of art by J.K. Rowling. The depths and brilliance of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone offer so much more than these few minutes can hold. Let this be a soft invitation to explore the full richness of the story itself. There is a boy. He lives in a cupboard under the stairs, which is a terrible place to live, but he has lived there for so long that he has mostly stopped noticing how terrible it is. His name is Harry Potter, and he is 10 years old, and he does not know anything about himself yet. Not really, not the important things. He does not know why he has a scar shaped like a lightning bolt on his forehead. He does not know why strange things happen around him sometimes, things he cannot explain and does not try to, because explaining them to the Dursleys would only make everything worse. He does not know that somewhere out there in a different world that exists alongside this one, people know his name the way you know the name of someone very famous, someone whose story is already legend. He just knows the cupboard. He knows the scratch of the door against the floor when he opens it. He knows the pipes that run along the low ceiling, the particular darkness, the way sound travels differently in a small enclosed space. He knows that his cousin Dudley has the bedroom at the top of the stairs and a second bedroom for his extra things, and Harry has the cupboard, and this has always been the way things are, and he has never been given a particularly good reason why. The Dursleys are Harry's aunt and uncle and cousin, and they are not kind people. This is not a complicated assessment. They are simply, straightforwardly, consistently unkind in the way of people who have decided that the world owes them comfort, and that anyone who complicates that comfort is a problem to be managed. Vernon Dursley is large and red-faced, and tends toward loud opinions about things. Petunia Dursley is thin and curious about her neighbours in the particular way of someone who needs to know that her life compares favourably to everyone else's. Dudley Dursley is 11 years old and spoiled in the complete way, the way where he has been given everything he ever asked for, and as a result finds receiving things unsatisfying and taking things much more interesting. Harry is not given much. He is given food enough to keep him functional, clothes from Dudley's enormous cast-off collection, the cupboard, and a general expectation that he will be grateful. He goes to the same school as Dudley and he is not popular there, partly because Dudley has made it his project to ensure that Harry has no friends, and Dudley is large enough and loud enough that this project succeeds. Harry spends a lot of time alone, which turns out to be useful training for certain things later, though he does not know this yet. The unusual things that happen around Harry are easy enough to list. His hair grows back overnight after Petunia cuts it too short. He ends up on the roof of the school kitchen once when Dudley was chasing him, with no memory of climbing anything. A tank at the zoo on a school trip loses its glass at precisely the moment Harry is standing in front of the snake inside it, and the snake slithers out, and Harry could swear they had a conversation, though he puts this aside as the kind of thing it is better not to think too hard about. These things happen and then they stop happening and life continues and the cupboard is still there and the Dursleys are still there and nothing changes until the letters start coming. The first letter arrives on a Tuesday, addressed in green ink, addressed specifically to Harry in his cupboard under the stairs, which strikes even Harry as a strange level of detail for a letter to include. Vernon intercepts it before Harry can read it. This would be the end of the matter, except that the next day there are 2 letters. Then 5, then a dozen. They come through the mail slot, they come rolled into the eggs. They come in quantities that suggest that whoever is sending them is not going to give up. Vernon boards up the mail slot, more letters come anyway. Vernon packs the whole family into the car and drives them to a series of increasingly remote locations, trying to escape the letters, which is a completely unhinged response to receiving letters. But Vernon is a man who, when faced with something he cannot control, tends to escalate rather than engage. They end up in a horrible shack on a rock in the middle of the sea on the night Harry turns 11. And the shack is wet and cold and miserable. And the whole situation is miserable. And Harry draws the number 11 in the dust on the floor and watches the seconds tick down toward midnight. Because midnight is his birthday and birthdays are the one thing that is entirely his, even if nobody celebrates them. And then at midnight, exactly, there is a crash so loud and large that the door of the shack falls in. And through the gap steps the largest person Harry has ever seen. His name is Rubeus Hagrid. He is half giant, which accounts for the size, and he has a massive tangled beard and enormous hands, and a gentle manner completely at odds with his physical presence. He is the keeper of keys and grounds at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, and he has come to deliver Harry's letter personally because, as he puts it with some exasperation, it has been difficult to get it to him. He gives Harry a birthday cake. The birthday cake is slightly squashed because Hagrid sat on it on the way over, but it is the first birthday cake Harry has ever received, and it is therefore, regardless of its condition, the best birthday cake in the history of cakes. Hagrid tells Harry the things Harry does not know, the things about the scar and the name and the legend. There is a wizard, he explains, was a wizard, though Hagrid cannot quite bring himself to say the name, a very dark and powerful wizard, the darkest and most powerful anyone could remember. And this wizard killed Harry's parents when Harry was barely old enough to walk. Killed them easily, terribly in their home. And then turned his wand on Harry, who was a baby, who should have been easy, who should have been nothing. And the curse, the killing curse, the worst curse there is, the one with no counter, the one that ends things, rebounded. It came back. And the wizard who had never failed and never been stopped by anyone was suddenly, inexplicably gone. Vanished. His body gone, his power gone, his followers scattered and lost. And all that was left was Harry, unharmed except for the scar, which is shaped like a lightning bolt and will not fade. Nobody knows why. That is the part that makes people whisper. That is the part that makes the wizarding world look at Harry with a particular expression, gratitude and wonder, and a little bit of the complicated feeling you have about a person who survived something that nobody else survived. Harry is famous. Harry has been famous since he was 15 months old. He is famous for surviving, which is not a thing he did on purpose or even consciously, but the world does not always care about those distinctions. The Dursleys knew all of this and told Harry none of it, which is the sort of thing that explains a great deal about the Dursleys. Hagrid takes Harry to London the next morning, and London is the beginning of everything. They go to Diagon Alley, which is hidden behind a pub called the Leaky Cauldron, which most people walk past without seeing because they are not the kind of people who see it. The entrance is a brick wall in a courtyard, and Hagrid taps the right bricks in the right order and the wall rearranges itself, folding and opening like a curtain being pulled aside. And beyond it is a cobblestone street full of wizarding shops and wizarding people and things that Harry has no reference point for whatsoever, and finds completely overwhelming in the very best way. They go to Gringotts first, because Gringotts is the wizarding bank, run by goblins who are small and clever and businesslike and slightly unnerving, and because Harry has money here that he did not know about, left by his parents in a vault deep underground. The vault is Vault 713. They stop at another vault on the way, Vault 1, which Hagrid empties for Hogwarts business, and whatever is in it is small enough to fit in Hagrid's coat pocket, and Harry is not told what it is. Harry's own vault is full of gold and silver and bronze coins, galleons and sickles and nuts, and he takes enough to cover his school supplies, which is itself a strange and disorienting experience for a boy who has spent his life wearing oversized hand-me-downs. They buy robes. They buy books, a list of them, strange titles, standard book of spells, 1,000 magical herbs and fungi, magical theory. They buy potion ingredients and a cauldron. They go to Ollivander's for a wand, which is a different experience from buying anything else, because at Ollivander's the wand chooses the wizard, and this has the texture of something genuinely mysterious rather than just commercial. Mr. Ollivander is old and pale-eyed and has an unsettling memory for every wand he has ever sold and who bought it and what became of them. He tries Harry with several wands. None of them feel right. And then he brings out a particular box, a particular wand 11 inches, holly, phoenix feather, and when Harry picks it up something happens, a warmth in the fingers, a shower of sparks from the tip, a feeling of rightness that is hard to describe but unmistakable. This is the wand. Mr. Ollivander tells Harry that the phoenix who provided the feather for his wand provided only one other feather. Only one other feather for one other wand. The wand that gave Harry his scar. Harry puts this away to think about later, in the corner of his mind where he has been putting the Dursleys and the cupboard and the snake at the zoo, and all the other things that require more processing than he currently has capacity for. Hagrid gives Harry an owl for his birthday, a beautiful snowy white owl that Harry names Hedwig. Hedwig is magnificent and intelligent and has a great deal of personality, and she is Harry's first and for some time only real companion, and she will matter to Harry in ways that a list of owl qualities cannot quite capture. The weeks before school are spent back at the Dursleys, who are no warmer about Harry's wizarding heritage than they have been about anything else. Harry writes letters to Hagrid, the only address he has for anyone in the wizarding world, through Hedwig, and Hagrid writes back with encouragement and occasional food items that behave in ways food items should not behave. September 1st arrives and Harry is driven to King's Cross Station and told that his train leaves from platform 9 3/4, which is between platform 9 and platform 10, and which should be physically impossible, and then left there with his trolley and his owl, and the kind of abandonment that is the Dursleys' particular specialty. He stands in the station and wonders what to do, And the answer arrives in the form of a family. A large, noisy, red-haired family moving through the station with caged owls and a general air of cheerful competence. Their surname is Weasley. The mother, Molly Weasley, is round and warm and runs toward Harry with the specific energy of a person who organizes and nurtures, and has never in her life seen a child in distress without doing something about it. She shows him how to get to the platform. You walk straight at the barrier between 9 and 10, which requires a certain kind of nerve the first time, and then you are through, and the Hogwarts Express is waiting, enormous and scarlet, breathing steam into a platform that is somehow not attached to the real King's Cross at all. Harry gets on the train. The train begins to move, and the 2 years of his life that prepared him for nothing fall away on the other side of the barrier, and something else begins. He meets Ron Weasley in his compartment, the youngest of the Weasley boys, freckled and red-haired and dressed in slightly too short robes, and carrying a rat named Scabbers who sleeps through everything. Ron is comfortable in the way of someone who has grown up with magic as the backdrop of normal life, rather than something hidden and whispered about. He is easy company in the uncomplicated way of someone who does not particularly want anything from Harry, except to sit together on the train and eat and talk. They eat an enormous quantity of things from the trolley. Bertie bots every flavour beans, chocolate frogs, cauldron cakes, and Ron tells Harry about Hogwarts with the practiced information of someone who has had 5 older siblings explain everything already. A girl comes into their compartment partway through the journey, bushy-haired and slightly too precise, looking for a toad belonging to a boy named Neville Longbottom who has lost it. Her name is Hermione Granger, and she has already memorized all of the textbooks and would like to know if anyone needs help with anything. Harry and Ron find her somewhat exhausting. This opinion will not survive contact with the events ahead. The train arrives after dark. The first years are taken separately from the older students, guided by Hagrid's enormous lantern across a black lake in small boats that move on their own, and across the lake in the darkness Hogwarts Castle becomes visible, lit from within, towers against the sky, more real and more enormous than anything Harry had imagined. He thought he had been imagining it clearly. He was wrong. They are met at the castle doors by Professor McGonagall, who is precise and Scottish and capable of a look that could stop a charging rhino, and who is deputy headmistress and head of Gryffindor House. She explains the houses. There are 4, Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, Slytherin, and the sorting, which assigns each student to their house, is imminent. The sorting happens in the Great Hall, which is a hall so great that its ceiling shows the night sky, charmed to reflect the real sky outside, and is lit by floating candles, and is lined with 4 long tables full of students in different coloured ties. The sorting hat is placed on each first year's head in turn. It is an ancient hat, battered and patched, and it thinks and mutters and then announces its decision loudly to the room. It considers Harry for a long moment, long enough to feel significant. Long enough for Harry to hear it saying in the private space of his mind that there is talent here, real talent, and a thirst to prove himself, and that Slytherin could help him on his way to greatness. Harry, who has already had one unpleasant encounter on the train with a pale boy who told him Slytherin was the better house, thinks quite clearly at the hat, not Slytherin, not Slytherin. And the hat seems to consider this and then announces, to the Gryffindor table's tremendous delight, Gryffindor. Ron is sorted into Gryffindor too. Hermione is sorted into Gryffindor. Neville Longbottom is sorted into Gryffindor. The pale boy from the train, his name is Draco Malfoy, is sorted into Slytherin swiftly, as though the hat has made up its mind before it touches his head. Hogwarts is everything Harry had hoped for and more. The food at the feast is extraordinary. The staircases move. The portraits on the walls move and talk. The ceiling of the Great Hall is genuinely, magnificently beautiful, full of clouds and stars and the suggestion of weather happening at a comfortable distance. Harry's dormitory in Gryffindor Tower has a four-poster bed with thick curtains and is the most comfortable sleeping arrangement he has ever encountered by an almost incomprehensible margin. Classes begin the next day, and classes at Hogwarts are nothing like classes at Harry's old school. Transfiguration is taught by Professor McGonagall, who can turn herself into a cat and is very serious about the technical demands of her subject. Charms is taught by Professor Flitwick, who is tiny and enthusiastic and stands on a pile of books to see over his desk. Herbology is taught in greenhouses by Professor Sprout, who is comfortable and earthy and surrounded at all times by plants of varying degrees of aggression. History of magic is taught by a ghost, Professor Binns, who died at his desk one day and simply got up and continued teaching, which would be more interesting if he were not so comprehensively boring. Astronomy is at midnight, on the tower, looking at the real sky rather than the enchanted version of it. Potions is taught by Professor Snape, and potions is immediately, distinctly different from all the other classes. The Snape is thin and dark-haired and pale, and he has a quality of absolute stillness that makes a room go quiet when he enters it. He does not like Harry. He makes this clear in the first class by calling on Harry to answer questions about ingredients and techniques that Harry, having arrived at the wizarding world late and with no preparation, cannot possibly know, and making Harry's ignorance feel intentional rather than circumstantial. There is something personal in it that Harry cannot quite account for yet, something older than this classroom, older than Harry's time at Hogwarts, older than Harry himself. There is also, notably, defense against the dark arts, taught by Professor Quirrell, a nervous, stuttering man with a turban that he claims he received as a gift from an African prince, though the turban has a strange smell that nobody comments on, because commenting on a professor's turban seems rude. He is timid in the way of someone who has encountered something frightening and not quite recovered from it, though what exactly he encountered is not yet clear. Flying lessons happen on the school grounds, broomsticks lined up in a row, and here Harry discovers something without trying to discover it. He is a natural. The broom responds to him. The air responds to him. He goes up and the ground falls away, and there is nothing in him but rightness and speed and the clean cold of altitude. And he has not experienced this feeling before, not in a cupboard, not anywhere, the feeling of being exactly where he is supposed to be. The flying lesson ends with a conflict involving Draco Malfoy and Neville Longbottom's Remembrall, which Malfoy throws into the air intending to be cruel, and Harry flying after it without thinking, catching it in a spectacular dive that empties every other thought from anyone watching's head. Professor McGonagall watches this from a window. Harry is certain he is about to be expelled, which turns out to be the opposite of what happens. McGonagall finds Oliver Wood, the captain of the Gryffindor Quidditch team, and introduces Harry as the team's new seeker, the youngest house player in a century. Harry is given a Nimbus 2000, a professional broomstick, which appears in his dormitory the next morning and is the most beautiful object he has ever personally owned. Ron and Harry are still becoming friends in the gradual way of people who are finding out that they work well together. Hermione is still slightly apart from them, being more comfortable with correct answers than with the social texture of being someone's friend, in the way of people who learned early that being impressive was more reliable than being liked. This changes on Halloween. There is a mountain troll in the castle on Halloween. It has been let in somehow. How exactly is not clear until much later. And in the chaos of professors rushing students to their dormitories, Hermione is not warned, because she is in the girls' bathroom on the ground floor crying, because Ron said something unkind about her, and she has been there all afternoon and does not know about the troll until the troll is in the same bathroom with her. Harry and Ron, who have been told to go to their dormitory and are instead running the wrong way, hear her scream and lock the troll in the bathroom with her, and then realize she is inside and have to go back and deal with a mountain troll with the combined resources of 2 first-year wands and a great deal of improvisation. The troll is knocked unconscious. Hermione tells the professors who arrive to find this scene that she went after the troll herself and Harry and Ron came to help her, which is a lie on Hermione's part and a significant departure from her previous policy of absolute rule following, which Harry and Ron understand immediately as friendship. You cover for your friends. You tell a specific kind of lie for your friends. Hermione has learned this, and it is a bigger shift than it might appear. After Halloween they are friends, properly the 3 of them, in the way that a shared emergency creates friendship faster than years of ordinary proximity. They are Gryffindor's golden trio, though nobody calls them that yet, and they begin to notice things together that they might not have noticed alone. They notice, specifically, that there is something on the 3rd floor corridor. They were warned on their first day not to go to the 3rd floor corridor on the right-hand side if they did not want to die, which is a warning so specific and dramatic that it creates rather than prevents curiosity, at least in certain kinds of children. Harry stumbles onto the corridor one night while he and Ron are evading Argus Filch, the caretaker, who moves through the castle at night with a cat called Mrs. Norris, who appears to have senses beyond those of an ordinary cat. They open the wrong door and find not an empty room but a dog with 3 heads, an enormous and terrible creature called a Cerberus in mythology, sleeping on a trapdoor. They back out. They go back to Gryffindor Tower. They think about it. There is a trapdoor under the 3-headed dog. There is something being guarded. This is, combined with the vague memory of Vault 713 at Gringotts being emptied on the same day Harry and Hagrid visited, very interesting. Quidditch arrives in November, and Quidditch is magnificent. The sport is played on broomsticks in a large stadium with multiple balls. The red quaffle, which the 3 chasers use to score through the elevated hoops. The 2 black bludgers, which the beaters keep from hitting their own team. And the golden snitch, which is tiny and winged and moves too fast for most eyes to track, and which the seeker must catch to end the game. Catching the snitch is worth 150 points and ends the match, so the seeker is arguably the most important position, and Harry is the seeker, and he is terrified in the exact way of someone who has discovered something he loves and is now afraid of failing at it publicly. The first match is Gryffindor versus Slytherin, and it is awful in the middle and wonderful at the end. Harry's broom begins behaving erratically, bucking and spinning, trying to throw him for no mechanical reason. Hermione, watching from the stands, sees Snape muttering in the teachers' section and his eyes fixed on Harry's broom, and she concludes, correctly though not completely correctly, that he is jinxing it. She takes action with the pragmatic decisiveness that is one of her best qualities, setting fire to the hem of Snape's robes in the confusion, which breaks his concentration and allows Harry's broom to stabilize. Harry wins the match. Not gracefully, he barely manages to stay on the broom, but he ends the game by catching the snitch in his mouth, accidentally, tumbling toward the ground and closing his fingers around it just before he would have hit the grass. The crowd reacts with the specific joy of a last-minute victory, which is different in quality from every other kind of victory, louder and more disbelieving. They learn later that the trapdoor in the third-floor corridor is guarding the Philosopher's Stone, a legendary object capable of producing the elixir of life and of transforming metal into gold. The stone was created by Nicholas Flamel, who is very old in the way that only becomes possible when you have access to an elixir of life, and it is being kept at Hogwarts because Dumbledore is the only person Flamel considers safer than Gringotts. This information assembles itself over time through the particular method of children asking questions of the wrong people and following threads in the library, and eventually Hermione putting things together with the comprehensive attention she brings to everything. Someone wants the stone. Someone is trying to get past the protections on it. There are indications, the troll let into the castle on Halloween, which Harry eventually concludes was a diversion, a way to draw teachers away from the third-floor corridor. Snape's apparent interest in whatever is happening. An incident where Harry and Ron and Hermione catch someone in the corridor doing something they cannot quite see. The someone appears to be Snape. The evidence points at Snape. Snape dislikes Harry for reasons nobody will explain fully. Snape wants the position of defense against the dark arts professor and has been passed over for it repeatedly, and wanting something you can't have and disliking someone in the vicinity of it are the kinds of facts that get assembled into narratives. Christmas arrives and Harry, for the first time, has Christmas at Hogwarts because almost everyone goes home and Harry has no home to go to. The handful of students who remain have the castle largely to themselves, and the festivity is quietly, unexpectedly wonderful. Harry wakes on Christmas morning to a pile of presents, real presents wrapped from real people who are thinking of him, from Ron, from Hermione, from the Weasley family who has adopted him into their affections without making a production of it, from Hagrid. And from someone anonymous, wrapped in tissue paper, an invisibility cloak, which the note says was his father's and which is now his. He puts it on and disappears in his mirror. He uses the invisibility cloak that night to explore the restricted section of the library, looking for information on Nicholas Flamel. And in the course of this exploration he finds, in an empty classroom, a mirror. The mirror is tall and elaborately framed, with an inscription along the top, Erist stra eru oit ube cafru oit on wosi, which, read backwards, gives you, I show not your face but your heart's desire. It is the mirror of Erist. Harry looks into it and sees himself surrounded by people, his reflection grinning and not alone. And on either side of him in the mirror are a red-haired man and a green-eyed woman who look like him, who are him in some sense, whose faces he does not recognize because he has never seen them. His father and mother, James and Lily Potter, who died when he was 15 months old and whom he has never had a single memory of. He kneels in front of the mirror for a long time. He comes back the next night and the night after that. Dumbledore finds him there on the third night, and Dumbledore talks to him about the mirror the way Dumbledore talks about most things, obliquely, warmly, with the sense of meaning more than he says. The happiest man alive, Dumbledore explains, would look into the mirror and see only himself exactly as he is. It shows us the deepest and most desperate desire of our hearts. It does not give truth or knowledge or anything useful. It traps. He is going to move it, he says, and he advises Harry not to go looking for it. Harry does not quite promise, but he understands. He will not chase the mirror. The mirror shows him what he cannot have. What is in front of him, the castle, the friends, the belonging, is real in a way the mirror never can be. Spring arrives, and with it a dragon. The dragon situation begins because Hagrid has a dragon egg that he has acquired through unclear means, and is incubating in his hut, which is a wooden structure on the grounds of a school full of children, which is not a great place to hatch a dragon. Dragons are illegal to keep as pets in the wizarding world and have been for a very long time, and Hagrid knows this. But Hagrid is a person who has always been more committed to things he loves than to the rules surrounding them. The egg hatches into a Norwegian ridgeback that Hagrid names Norbert and coos over with a complete disregard for the reality that a baby dragon will not stay small. Harry and Ron and Hermione spend anxious weeks trying to convince Hagrid to get rid of Norbert before anyone finds out. And during this period Draco Malfoy sees the dragon through Hagrid's window, and Harry and Hermione find themselves in the unenviable position of smuggling a dragon in a crate up to the top of the astronomy tower in the middle of the night to pass it to Ron's brother Charlie's friends, who will take it to a dragon sanctuary. This is not a plan without complications. Harry and Hermione are caught on the way back by Professor McGonagall, who is furious with the specific fury of someone who expected better, and both of them lose 50 points each from Gryffindor along with Neville Longbottom, who was there waiting for them and should not have been, and they serve detention together. The detention is in the Forbidden Forest. Hagrid takes them out among the trees to find a wounded unicorn, because something has been hurting unicorns in the forest, drinking their blood, which is a terrible thing because unicorn blood keeps you alive when you are otherwise near death, but at a cost. The person who drinks it is cursed, lives a half-life, a shadowed and diminished life. The thing in the forest is drinking unicorn blood because it is keeping itself alive on something. It needs to survive long enough to do something it has not yet done. Harry sees it in the forest, a hooded figure over a unicorn. A centaur named Fiennes rescues Harry and carries him away, and Fiennes tells him what the other centaurs do not want said. The thing in the forest is Voldemort. Or what is left of Voldemort, which is barely anything, a shade, a fragment, something that is almost nothing but not nothing enough. And it is going after the Philosopher's Stone because the stone can give it back. Give it a body, give it real life again, and Snape is helping it. This assembles into a plan. Harry, Ron, and Hermione decide that they cannot wait for adults to handle this. The reasoning, which is the reasoning of people who have been spending a year not being protected by the adults around them in the ways they needed, is that if Snape gets the stone tonight, it will be too late. They will go through the trapdoor themselves. They will stop it themselves. They might all die. They acknowledge this to each other, but they are going tonight. They go under Harry's invisibility cloak, the three of them pressed close together, across the grounds and through the corridors, past Filch and Mrs. Norris, to the third-floor corridor where the three-headed dog is. Playing music puts Fluffy, they've learned the dog's name from Hagrid in an unguarded moment, to sleep, and they drop through the trap-door. What follows is a sequence of obstacles, each one designed by a different professor as a layer of protection. They fall into a plant, Devil's Snare, Professor Sprout's contribution, that wraps around you if you struggle, and Hermione knows the counter-curve, which is light and relaxation, and she conjures fire and pulls them free. They fly through a chamber full of winged keys to find the right one for the door. They find a giant chessboard where they must play their way across, Ron directing them with the quiet authority of someone who genuinely knows chess better than almost anything else, sacrificing himself, his piece himself, to allow Harry to take the king and the path to clear. He is hurt. He cannot come further. Hermione knows from the logic of the obstacles, each one suited to a different skill, that the final challenge will require something that is not her strength and not Ron's, something specifically suited to Harry. She tells Harry to go on alone and she'll go back for Ron and send owls when she can. They are 12 years old. They say goodbye with the matter-of-factness of people who have become very close very quickly, and do not yet have the vocabulary for what that closeness means but feel it completely. Harry goes through the last door and finds the mirror of Erist, and in front of the mirror stands not Snape but Professor Quirrell. The revelation rearranges everything. Not Snape. Snape had been trying to protect Harry, muttering a counter-jinx during the first Quidditch match, not a jinx, placing himself in the way of the obstacles. Quirrell was the danger all along. Quirrell who was nervous and stuttering and who smelled strange and whose turban was not from Africa. Quirrell needs Harry to get the stone. The stone is hidden in the mirror, protected by the same enchantment Dumbledore placed there. Only someone who wants to find it but not use it will be able to see it and take it from the mirror's world. Quirrell cannot see it. He looks and sees himself making gold and living forever, the desires of someone who is willing to do anything to get what he wants, and the mirror keeps it from him. Harry looks into the mirror and sees his reflection reach into a pocket and pull out the stone, and feel it drop real and heavy into his pocket. He has it. He does not tell Quirrell he has it. Quirrell removes his turban, which is the moment the air in the room changes completely. On the back of Quirrell's head is another face, a pale, flat face, red-eyed, barely a face at all. Voldemort, or what remains of him. Sharing Quirrell's body, sustained by a unicorn blood, kept alive by Quirrell's willingness to serve as a host, feeding on something that makes him strong enough to exist but not strong enough to do anything else. He has been here all year. He walked Harry to Diagon Alley. He sat at the staff table. He taught Harry about garlic and stuttered through classes about dark magic. Voldemort tells Quirrell to seize Harry. Quirrell grabs him. Harry's forehead blazes with pain, his scar burning worse than it has ever burned. And then something else happens, something as inexplicable as a killing curse rebounding. Quirrell blisters and burns wherever he touches Harry. Harry's skin against Quirrell's is agony for Quirrell. Harry grabs Quirrell's face and holds on through the pain, and Quirrell screams and crumbles, and Voldemort's face screams and rises as a vapor and rushes at Harry, through Harry, and the pain is everything, and then there is nothing. Harry wakes up in the hospital wing, and Dumbledore is sitting beside him. Dumbledore explains what needs explaining, in the way Dumbledore always explains things. Enough to satisfy the immediate questions, not so much as to remove all mystery. Harry's mother, Lily Potter, died to save him, threw herself in front of the curse not because it was a strategy but because she loved him completely and chose his life over her own, and that love left a protection on Harry that has never faded. It is in his very skin. It is why Quirrell burned. Ancient magic, older than any formula in any textbook, the kind of thing that happens only once and leaves a mark that cannot be unmade. The stone has been destroyed. Flamel and his wife will die in time, their stores of elixir are nearly gone, but they have had enough life already, Dumbledore says, and going on to the next great adventure is not the worst thing. Voldemort is gone again for now. He is not gone forever. Quirrell is dead. Hermione and Ron recover. Ron from his chess injury, Hermione from nothing physical but the particular exhaustion of having been very frightened for a long time and then very relieved. They sit together in the hospital wing and eat chocolate frogs and talk. And this is one of the best scenes in the whole story. These three people who were strangers 9 months ago being entirely comfortable in each other's company, connected by something that will not easily come apart. The year ends with exams. Hermione approaches them with her characteristic intensity. Harry and Ron approach them with Harry's scar still tender, and a general sense that exams are extremely beside the point given recent events, and then with the end-of-year feast. Gryffindor has been behind in points all year, partly because of the points lost over the Dragon and Norbert. The House Cup seems settled in Slytherin's favour, the table draped in green. And then Dumbledore at the end of the feast announces that there are some last-minute points to award. To Ron Weasley, for the best game of chess Hogwarts has seen in years, 50 points. To Hermione Granger, for the cool use of intellect in the face of danger, 50 points. To Harry Potter for pure nerve and outstanding courage, 60 points. Gryffindor and Slytherin are tied. And then, after a long pause in which the room is absolutely still, Dumbledore awards 10 points to Neville Longbottom, for something Dumbledore calls the most difficult thing of all. It takes a great deal of bravery to stand up to your enemies, he says, but just as much to stand up to your friends. Neville received a detention this year for trying, earnestly and miserably, to stop Harry and Ron and Hermione from going out at night, because he was afraid they would get expelled. He was right that they were breaking rules. He was right to try. He was brave in the way that does not get celebrated enough. The Gryffindor table erupts. The banners change from green to red. Dumbledore smiles. Harry goes home for the summer. Goes back to the Dursleys, which is the only home he has and will always be slightly the wrong size for him. But he is not the same person who left it. He has friends, real ones, for the first time. He has a world to go back to. He has Hedwig, who sits in her cage on the train and knows very well that they are going somewhere less good than where they came from, and communicates this opinion through silence and an air of resigned dignity. And he has Hogwarts waiting for him, On the 1st of September, it will be there. The train will leave. The candles will float. The ceiling will show the night sky, and the food will appear on the tables, and the staircases will move, and somewhere in the stone corridors, the year will be different from the last one, better in some ways and harder in others, as years tend to be. There will be new things to learn and new reasons for fear and new moments of unexpected joy. There will be more of Ron and Hermione. There will always be more. Harry does not know any of this specifically. He just knows that when the summer ends he will get on the train, and that is enough. That is, in the way of things that have finally come right, exactly enough. The common room fire is dying down now. The fat lady is asleep in her portrait. The staircases have settled for the night. Somewhere in the castle, owls are making their comfortable nighttime sounds. The enchanted ceiling shows the stars as they really are, the real stars, steady and patient and very far away. You can sleep now. The year is over. Everyone is safe. Good night.